Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome. We made it to Friday. A second federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to bring back a young migrant who was deported to El Salvador last month under the Alien Enemies Act, marking another blow in a series of courtroom clashes over President Trump's aggressive immigration agenda. We have the full details for you. We'll visit again with Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Greenville Chamber, for our weekly legislative update with only 6 days left in the legislative session for this year. There's trouble in Democrat paradise. Democrat National Committee Chair Ken Martin, aiming to tone down a raging firestorm in the party, is making it crystal clear to the DNC that they will stay neutral in intra-party primaries, and says DNC Vice Chair David Hogg has a choice to make. And the so-called Biden effect appears to be a factor in congressional longevity after Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin of Illinois announced that he will not seek re-election after nearly 4 decades in Congress.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So let's talk about the Biden effect. Are you familiar with the term? Well, if you haven't heard this phrase before, buckle up, because the so-called Biden effect is like watching a house of cards collapse in slow motion. Except this house of cards is the United States Congress, and the cards are crusty, long-term Democrats finally being shown the door by time, pressure, and the reality that it's time to go. So here's what's happening. One by one, these ancient relics of the swamp, people like Dick Durbin, Jeannie Shaheen, Mitch McConnell, Gary Peters, and it's not just a Democrat thing. There's some Republicans there, too. They're all announcing that they're not running for re-election. Why? Because the Biden presidency poisoned the well. And, yes, it is a bipartisan poison. Now, you might say, Joey, these are just politicians retiring. It happens. Yeah, they do. But let's look a little deeper. This isn't just aging out. This is fallout. This is blowback from one of the most catastrophic presidencies in modern American history. And we witnessed it. We had to live through it. Remember the infamous Biden-Trump debate in 2024? Biden stumbled through it like he was, I've heard someone say, auditioning for a Life Alert commercial. I've fallen and I can't govern. It was so bad. His own party decided to replace him with Kamala Harris, a move that, as you know, didn't work out exactly the way they wanted. But here's the deal. That moment opened up the floodgates. It was like someone finally turned on the lights in the swamp, and suddenly voters and activists looked around and said, hey, wait a minute. Why are we being led by people pushing 80, 85, and 90? And it spread, and it's beginning to spread like wildfire. Even Rutgers professor Ross Baker, who isn't a MAGA firebrand at all, called it a contagion. He said, quote, it contaminated old Democrats, like it's a virus. And he's right. It's political radiation from a failed presidency. And let's not pretend it's just Democrats. Again, Mitch McConnell, for example, 83 years old. Remember a couple of times last year when he froze up on camera? kind of like your old desktop computer. He's finally stepping down too. I heard one of the political commentators say, these people hang on to power longer than a tick on a hound dog. But here's the kicker. As the old guard retreats, and this is where we have to be concerned about this, folks. I'm happy to see them go. I'm happy to see them go home and spend time with their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. But as they leave, the far-left radicals are moving in like a bunch of vultures. And this is where we have to be on our toes. This is where we have to be ready to fight. Let me give you an example. Dick Durbin announced his retirement. Already, Juliana Stratton, a hairstyle progressive out of Illinois, is circling the seat. She's 20 years younger, 200% more radical. And who's potentially next? What about Chucky Schumer? Yeah, old Chucky. He's in trouble, too. The crown prince of political triangulation. He's 74, underwater in the polls, and getting primaried from the left, probably by AOC herself, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Because, nothing says stable leadership like a socialist Instagram influencer and former bartender. How in the world AOC continues to be reelected, I have not a clue. This isn't just a changing of the guard, though. It's a hostile takeover by these groups, like the Squad, like the DSA, like every TikTok radical who has their pronouns in their bio. Now, here's the problem. When voters finally noticed Biden's mental decline, they also noticed the whole party's running on fumes. What's the average age of the Senate? I did a show one time, and I gave you all their ages, and there's a whole group of them. The average age is like 72 or something. The party of the youth vote looks like a bingo hall. So what's going to happen? What's up next? The left is getting their bench ready. They're trotting out the Strattons, the Hogg crowd. And I've got more to say about David Hogg later in the show. You're going to want to stick around. David Hogg, the former activist turned DNC vice chair. He's launched a full-on operation to primary sitting Democrats just for being old. Imagine that. Eating their own. Let's pass the popcorn. We'll watch. But Hogg is being threatened by the DNC elite within his own party. What's the Democrat version of a rhino? Like maybe Dino? Like in the Flintstones? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Isn't that these swamp fossils, aren't they finally getting out of the way? Shouldn't we be happy? And yes, we should be. But again, we got to be cautious here because we got to make sure that they're somehow replaced with common sense, patriotic Americans, people who love our country. Not people who want to further destroy our country, like the AOCs of the world. And that's what they're trying to do. That's what the left's trying to do. They're trying to replace these positions with race-baiting, America-hating, open border radicals. And it's all thanks to the Biden effect. Joe Biden didn't just crash his own presidency. He detonated a depth charge under the whole Democrat establishment. And what about the Republicans? Well, if we're honest, and we always tell the truth here, we got to look at the Republicans too. We have to look in our own mirror. Chuck Grassley, 91 years old. James Risch in Idaho. He'll be 82 when he runs for re-election. Folks, we need warriors. We need conservatives with energy, with vision, and with a backbone who will stand up to the left. And we need them fast. Yes, I know we had big wins in November, not too long ago. But this is why I keep saying we can't let our guard down. We can't relax. We got a lot of work to do, and we got to jump on it. We got to get started now. We have celebrated our victory in November. Of course, we've sat by and watched some of these radical judges try to tear it apart, and we're going to have to continue to deal with that. But we got to start working towards 2026 because here's the bottom line. The country doesn't need a gerontocracy. It needs a Republican. We need fresh voices grounded in American values. We need leaders who know what a gallon of gas costs and how to use a smartphone, how to post on social media. And above all, we need people who will put America first. It's just that simple. Trump's second term is already cleaning house, but we got to finish the job. And we got to prepare to hold on to power for another 8 years. Drain the swamp. It doesn't just mean the bureaucrats. It means the lifers, the seat holders, the people who have worn out their welcome in our nation's capital. They've been there longer than the average American's been alive in some cases. So the Biden effect, it's real, but it's only the beginning. Let's turn this moment into momentum. Let's build a government that works, one that serves the people, not the other way around. You with me? You agree? Love to get your comments. Email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. You can text me. You can also leave me a quick message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. We've got to step up. And I know, again, we're celebrating victories. We're happy that Donald Trump's in the office. But we're getting a glimpse with all the pushback that we're getting from these activist judges of what's to come. And that's why we have to hold on to the White House, and we got to build on our majorities in the Congress so that we can elect more conservatives, put more conservatives on the bench, elect more conservatives to the U.S. House and to the U.S. Senate. So we got some work to do. Are you ready for this? I dropped over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan, and I never took Ozempic or any of those other weight loss shots. Joey Hudson here. Before you take a drug, here's something you should know. Your body already makes GLP-1. That's the appetite-fighting hormone that these popular drugs copy. But the PhD weight loss program helps your body make it on its own. No side effects, no long-term risk, no major muscle loss, and no rebound weight gain when you stop. Just natural, lasting results. Before Big Pharma was dancing around in commercials, Dr. Ashley Lucas was doing the real work, helping people lose weight naturally and keeping it off, all without hunger or cravings. At PhD Weight Loss, you'll learn what to eat, when to eat, and how to flip your fat-burning switch without a shot. Don't trade your health for a quick fix. You can do this without Big Pharma. You can do this without drugs. Right now, the first 11 callers get 2 weeks free added to their program, 15% off when you fully commit to the program, a free supplemental bundle, and the PhD Get Results Guarantee. Call now, 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or online at myphdweightloss.com. So here we go again, another federal judge ordering the Trump administration to return a deported migrant under their settlement agreement. So the difference? Well, this time the federal judge was actually appointed by President Donald Trump. So it's a bit harder to make the case that this is a rogue judge trying to hurt the president. This latest case, along with some of the feedback that I'm hearing from other Trump supporters, is a bit troubling. I mean, should we rethink our position on some of these deportations? Last weekend, for example, GOP Senator John Kennedy, who I think is one of the biggest supporters of President Donald Trump, he said during an interview, though, with NBC's Christian Welker, that the Trump administration's deportation of Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, who, as we know, is in a El Salvadoran mega prison, Senator Kennedy said simply, this was just a screw-up.
Final point I'd make, look, this was a screw-up, in my opinion. The administration won't admit it, but this was a screw-up. Mr. Garcia was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador. He was sent to El Salvador. The Democrats saying, look, we told you Trump is a threat to democracy. This is going to happen every other Thursday afternoon. I don't see any pattern here. I mean, someday pigs may fly, but I doubt it.
Senator, this is notable because you are saying, in your words, this is a screw-up. I mean, are you concerned that more mistakes could happen?
Well, sure. None of us want mistakes. Mm-hmm. Mistakes bad. Doing it right, good.
Yeah.
But it was a screw-up, and I understand why the administration is bowed up and said we won't admit it's a mistake, because if they do, they'll have their throats torn out. But it was a screw-up. I don't see any pattern here. I've been listening to my Democratic friends say for, I don't know, since God was a child, that Trump is a threat to democracy. I I don't see any pattern here. I see a screw up.
And again, I don't think anyone can say that John Kennedy has not supported Donald Trump. So here's the latest. This is what happened, which has renewed this discussion. A second federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to bring back a young migrant who was deported to El Salvador last month under the Alien Enemies Act, marking another blow in a series of courtroom clashes over President Donald Trump's aggressive immigration agenda. Now, this latest ruling came from U.S. District Judge Stephanie Gallagher, a Trump appointee in Maryland, who determined that the government breached a legally binding settlement agreement when it deported this 20-year-old migrant only known as Kristen. Kristen was part of a protected class of asylum seekers who had entered the U.S. as an unaccompanied minor and was granted the right to remain in the country while asylum claims were reviewed. Now, this group negotiated a settlement with the Department of Homeland Security in 2023 that promised they would not be deported until their asylum cases were fully adjudicated. Now, we could debate the merits of that agreement because that in itself doesn't make sense. That's crazy. Of course, that was in the Biden administration. Why would the Department of Homeland Security be negotiating with a group of people who are in the country illegally to begin with? But again, that's done. So we can't go back and reevaluate that, I don't suppose. What happened, though, in March, Kristen was forcibly removed from the U.S., sent back to El Salvador, something that the Judge Gallagher, ruled yesterday, she said was a clear violation of this settlement agreement. Judge Gallagher emphasized that her decision focused on what she called a breach of contract and had nothing to do with the broader constitutional questions surrounding the Alien Enemies Act and whether or not the Trump administration should be allowed to use that to deport illegals quickly. The judge cited, quote, fundamental tenets of contract law, stating that the deportation of Kristen without a final asylum determination violates the plain terms of the agreement. Now, I don't know if we could maybe fast track that asylum hearing, but regardless, it appears that this young man is going to be brought back for that hearing. She also ordered the Trump administration to make a good faith request to the Salvadoran government to release Kristen back to U.S. custody. Now, this is the same thing, the same situation that we are in right now with Mr. Garcia, whether or not El Salvador will release these people. The ruling prohibits DHS from removing any other individuals in this protected class, including an 18-year-old referred to as Javier, until their asylum claims have been processed by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Now, again, I don't know how many people are in this class. I don't know if it's a few hundred, if it's a few thousand, or what. But if we have to go through the process of having all these hearings, this could take forever. I don't know that we could ever get it completed. And maybe that's their strategy here. And again, I might be suspect of that if this judge were not a Trump-appointed judge. Attorneys for the Trump administration are arguing that Kristen was no longer protected under the agreement because of a recent drug possession conviction, and in their view qualified him for immediate removal under the Alien Enemies Act. And it's a valid argument. The administration maintains that such convictions disqualify migrants from these class protections and that the president's emergency powers allow for rapid deportation of individuals deemed security risk, which is the whole purpose of the Enemy Aliens Act. Still, this federal judge disagreed, finding no justification to remove Kristen without following the agreed legal process. So maybe we're going to have to gather a lot of all these in this class, have them show up in a football stadium somewhere, and have a mass hearing, deny their asylum request, and then send them back. Because this is starting to just get totally out of hand. The decision, of course, is just weeks after James Boasberg ruled against the Trump administration for deporting the suspected gang members without judicial review. In that case, of course, the administration is accused of defying a temporary injunction by deporting hundreds of migrants to El Salvador. These deportations, of course, have caused a lot of debate, a lot of national attention, especially amid the administration's aggressive use of the Alien Enemies Act, which, as we've talked about before, it's a rarely used 18th century statute that allows the president to deport individuals from countries deemed hostile. And it's a law. It's on the books. Trump didn't just make this up. It remains unclear how El Salvador is going to respond to the U.S. government's request to return Christian, or whether the Trump administration will appeal the Gallagher ruling, and how the Supreme Court might the appeals courts and the Supreme Court. This could end up back in front of the Supreme Court. Legal experts suggest that the case could influence future rulings on similar deportations, especially involving other members of protected classes. And again, the debate on whether there should be protected classes is a whole other debate. We'll get into that one day. With the Supreme Court set to hear another Alien Enemies Act related case in mid-May, this ruling adds to the growing stack of legal hurdles that are facing the White House's immigration plans, facing the very tenet that we elected Donald Trump on last November, to remove illegals from the country quickly. I don't know how it happens. I guess we just all have to be patient, be a little patient, and know that somehow this is going to work its way out. I had no idea, though, that we were ever going to run into these types of hurdles. Did you? Did you think that we would be faced with some of the obstacles that we are? I mean, it's just unbelievable that we now have an administration who has closed down our border. So that's the good news. And we're not going to have this flood of people coming in. But we can't seem to start the process of removing those who got in when they shouldn't have. And now we can't get rid of them. I mean, I never dreamed that it'd be this difficult to start the deportation process, that there'd be this many hurdles, and that we're going to have all these judges who are going to block the president from doing what we elected him to do. I mean, it's like every day a new surprise. And again, the idea that there is a protected class, and evidently, from what I gather, there are several protected classes within the illegal immigrant community that we will not be able to deport until they have their asylum hearing. I mean, the whole thing is just crazy. Am I off base here? Am I overreacting? Send me a quick text. Email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com to get the very best savings that you're going to get. Democrat National Committee Chair Ken Martin is aiming to try to tone down a really raging firestorm in his party, and is making it crystal clear that the DNC will stay neutral in intra-party primaries. Now, Mr. Martin's comments were directed at DNC Vice Chair David Hogg. We talked about this earlier in the week. Last week, he pledged to shell out $20 million through his outside political group, Leaders We Deserve, to primary challenge some older Democrats in blue districts. Hogg's effort is aimed to trying to elect younger Democrats and includes supporting primary challengers to House Democrats in what is considered safe seats. Hogg argues that these people are asleep at the wheel. He's the 25-year-old survivor of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. He's drawn sharp attention by spending money against fellow Democrats, even as a party official, which is a no-no. Mr. Martin said that he has great respect for David Hogg, but there's no place for a party officer to be doing these types of things.
Let me be unequivocal. No DNC officer should ever attempt to influence the outcome of a primary election, whether on behalf of an incumbent or a challenger. As our charter states, a party which asks for the people's trust must prove that it trusts the people. Voters should decide who our primary nominees are, not DNC leadership. Our role is to serve as stewards of a fair, open, and trusted process, not to tilt the scales. Let me be clear, this is not about shielding incumbents or boosting challengers. It's about voters' trust in the party. And when we uphold a clear policy of neutrality, we guard against the perception or reality of bias. We build confidence in our system and faith in our party. This is why we discussed the importance of officer neutrality last month at our officer retreat, and why I asked all of our officers to sign and abide by a neutrality pledge, which almost every officer did. I first became a DNC officer in 2017, as I mentioned, and as we were emerging from a period when the DNC had been severely damaged by questions about its impartiality. Since then, I've been consistent and unwavering in supporting reform and transparency within our party, from leading efforts to reform the superdelegate rules to working with my friend Keith Ellison to advance our neutrality policy. I've always believed our strength lies in the trust we earn from our voters and our members. To this end, during my campaign and over the past 2.5 months as chair, I have spoken repeatedly about the need to democratize the DNC, to increase transparency and build trust with Democrats. In this time of unprecedented threats to our democracy, it is more important than ever for there to be a strong and trusted Democratic Party. Questions about neutrality and integrity only serve to weaken us at a time when we can least afford it. And let me say, I have great respect for David Hogg. I think he's an amazing young leader who's done so much already to help move our movement forward. And while, certainly, I understand what he's trying to do. As I've said to him, if you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but just not as an officer of the DNC, because our job is to be neutral arbiters. We can't be both the referee and also the player at the same time. You have to make a decision. And I am a huge fan of David Hogg's, and I'm glad he's a part of our officer corps. But it's important for us to maintain the trust that we have built with Democratic voters and to keep our thumb off the scale as party officers.
Once again, David Hogg has stirred it up, hasn't he? Wow. Jane Kleeb is president of the Association of State Democrat Chairs, joined Mr. Martin, saying, I too have a deep relationship with David. I was just talking with him this morning. We hope that he realizes that he got elected to be officer of the DNC, which means that we remain neutral. You think they're going to be able to shut this young guy up? Hours later, Hogg responded in a series of social media posts. He said the role of the DNC is to set the presidential primary calendar, set the presidential debate schedule, help strengthen our state parties, play a key role in building our data infrastructure for the party, and to be the campaign in waiting for whoever the next Democrat nominee is. Nothing I'm doing is at odds with any of that. So it sounds to me like he's going to try to defy his chairman and other officers. He charged that the DNC is trying to change the rules because I'm not currently breaking them. He said, we're seeing law firms, tech companies, and so many others bowing to Trump. We all must use whatever position of power we have to fight back, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Wow. The move by Hogg comes as the party's base is angry. They're energized in fighting against Trump, and they probably have a pretty good chance historically. The party in power loses races in the midterms. But with this intra-party fighting, I hope they keep at it. I hope he doesn't bow. Just they can tear the Democrat party apart inside out. I mean, that anger that you hear is directed not only at Trump and Republicans, but it's also directed at the Democrat Party because they believe that the party itself has let them down. Many in the party's base feel that they haven't been effective. They haven't been vocal enough in pushing back. So maybe David Hogg is the new Democrat Party. The according to progressive champions like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you kind of see this energy and this defiance brewing within the party. But that's not going to win them elections overall. It may energize the base, but I think the average American, the independent, is going to be put off by that. Another leader on the left who's been among those vocal in their resistance to the Trump administration is Representative Ro Khanna of California. He said, we have to have a whole rebrand of the Democrat Party with a coherent platform and a future-oriented platform. And many leaders need to do that. New leaders, not the old guard, and I hope to be a part of that. In a social media post, Khanna said last week that he supports Hogg's primary plan and urged Democrats to embrace a new generation of leadership and competition. These guys aren't bowing down, are they? And let's get the popcorn out and sit back and watch. They're going to have a civil war within the Democrat Party. Martin's comments on the DNC neutrality in primaries came as he and Klebe announced a $1 million investment in Democrat state parties. The chair called for the investment, called it a historic investment, said that it will remake how we do business and how we achieve sustained political power in the Democrat Party. But you think about that. He's announcing spending $1 million. David Hogg claims that he can raise $20 million. How does a kid who, God bless him, was a survivor of this shooting, how does he raise $20 million? I don't quite get that. Mr. Klebe said that the reform package that Ken Martin is bringing forward that he'll be discussing over the next several months that he ran it on as chair is not a reaction to David, but is a step in the right direction of reforms, saying that we've been fighting for these for 15 years. Former DNC Chair Howard Dean, who instituted a previous 50-state strategy when he steered the National Party Committee 2 decades ago, praised the new plan, saying this is a really critical move that's being made now. The DNC's job has to shift outside of Washington. We cannot be a Washington-centric party and expect to win. Now, Mr. Martin is expected or was expected to detail the new investments for state parties, along with the strength and neutrality pledge for DNC officials. The problem is, I don't know that some of these young bucks are going to sign a neutrality pledge. I don't think David Hogg will. Do you? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. For our weekly legislative report, Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Greenville Chamber. Welcome, Matt. How are you?
Thanks, Joey. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. All right, so we are literally down to the wire. How many more days do we have left?
We have 6, but who's counting?
Yeah, okay. All right. 6 days with lots of things to get accomplished. All right. So what do you think will be the priorities in these next 6 legislative days?
Well, the first priority is, as with every year about this time, is the budget. Senate finished debating their version of the budget this week, bounced it back over to the House today, and, we'll look to get, some sort of new bite at the apple from the House side, and then we'll get some conferees established on both sides to kind of get through what we need to get through to reach a compromise on the budget before we adjourn on May 8th. That's the biggest piece. Obviously, the other pieces that we'd love to see come to fruition is obviously we still got the energy bill that it's kind of bounced around both chambers at this point. We've got tort reform still on the table, not dead yet. And then, resurrecting out of the ashes potentially is some form of tax reform after this week. New hearing, Revenue and Fiscal Affairs offered up 3 new options for Ways and Means to kind of take a peek at. And I think probably the most endearing option to everyone of the three, obviously is the one that doesn't raise taxes on anybody in the short term,
right?
And then gets us, triggers us down to a flat tax in the future when revenue goals are met.
Sure.
So lots still to do, but we've got some time left on the clock. Not much time, but we've got some time.
Yeah. So Matt, walk us through this as they're trying to finalize the budget. Is there such thing as multitasking in the legislature? I mean, will they be working on some of these other, or does things just kind of come to a halt till they get the budget finished?
So it's kind of a convoluted process. Things kind of do grind down to a halt in each chamber when the budget is on the floor of those chambers being debated. But other business does get done in the interim. And then when we go to the conference time, those are between 3 or 4 members from each chamber going in, kind of negotiating on behalf of their chambers, and then taking the bill back to each one of their chambers and obviously passing them respectively. So there is an opportunity to get some other stuff done concurrently, if you will, with the budget still being needing to be passed. But the clock is ticking.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk for a minute about tort reform. You and I have spent a lot of time over these past few months on tort reform. What's the rumor? I mean, what are people saying around the State House? Is there still a chance something's going to pass?
So there is a chance something is going to pass. Exactly what that form is yet to materialize. As we kind of chatted about last week, the Senate updated the House passed language on liquor liability to mirror the tort reform language passed by the Senate. So the ball now is in the House's possession, if you will, and they are going to figure this out. I think we're going to get something. I don't know exactly what that is yet. The Speaker used his prerogatives as Speaker to assign the Senate language back to the Judiciary Committee to get something done. We've just not seen a Judiciary Committee meeting scheduled as of yet. And just because it's sitting in committee doesn't mean it can't be recalled and brought directly to the floor. We've seen that a couple of times this year from the Senate, from the House, and get voted on immediately.
Sure.
But obviously, with the clock ticking the way that it is, we anticipate something happening obviously sooner rather than later. And then, hopefully we'll see some relief for all South Carolinians. The latest rumor is old as soon as it comes out of somebody's mouth. So hesitant to kind of talk about exactly what that looks like. But I think we're trending in a good direction. I think folks are starting to realize that we need to get something done. We need to get something done now.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of sense of urgency, I guess, from a lot of different groups. And I know that they're out there working, making phone calls. I had a listener earlier say that they had received a text message encouraging them to contact their state rep, and it was a specific rep. So I'm assuming there's some groups that are targeting those that they think maybe are kind of on the fence as to how they'll vote. So a lot of people are putting effort into this.
There are. And look, I applaud the efforts on both sides. Don't necessarily agree with what's coming from the opposing side of tort reform, but I applaud the effort of getting folks involved and making sure that folks understand what's going on. I think the frustrating thing is the obfuscation and outright kind of mistruths, if you will, about what 244 is and the Senate language is on the tort reform side. The way that it passed the Senate helps way more than it is ever going to hurt anyone. Sure. Is it perfect? Again, we talk about this over and over. It is not perfect. There are some very narrow issues in it that are imperfect, that can be addressed, as standalones that can be used as negotiation points to be taken out of the bill. But sure. I think as we look at anything, the entire point is passing law, seeing if it works. If If it doesn't work, let's fix it.
Yeah.
And I think again we go back to Director Wise with the Department of Insurance. The only thing that he has heard from insurance companies that will bring down insurance rates, premium numbers, is tort reform.
You're right.
And thankfully, the Senate has given us a version of that that I think is appealing to many, many, many more than it is unappealing to.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen this in other states this year. We saw Louisiana pass some major tort reform this year. Our neighbor governor, Georgia, the governor just signed into law a major effort to reform their tort system there too. So I think everybody has come to that conclusion that we just have to stop some of these lawsuits that are just crazy to the average person. You look at it and you think, why would that ever be allowed to happen? To get insurance companies feeling comfortable to come back.
Well, and I think that's the bigger picture of this. Yes, we want to see our hospitality industry thrive, and if we need to give them relief in a specific way, we need to do so. But if we can do it in a way where it benefits all South Carolinians at one time, I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Wills with the Greenville Chamber, thank you again for your time. And, hey, look, 6 more days, we will certainly be checking in with you when that 6th day arrives.
Oh, I appreciate it. No one's counting it down quicker than a lot of us in the lobby, and probably a lot of folks that are actually working in the chambers doing the representative work that they're there to do. But I think we're off to a good start in this legislative term. And I think we're going to get some good stuff passed.
That is good to hear. We'll chat back with you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.